There is a lie that's been repeated so many times. It started sounding like wisdom, a lie disguised as maturity, wrapped in logic, justified by pain. Be careful, play it safe. Don't rush, don't risk, don't reach. It sounds like wisdom, but it's fear in disguise. Fear in a suit. Fear dressed up as responsibility. Fear hiding behind your most reasonable-sounding excuses. And the longer you repeat it, the more it becomes your truth. Not because it is truth, but because it's comfortable. This is how fear feeds itself, not with panic, but with permission. You say you're being cautious. You say you're just waiting for the right moment. You say you're playing it smart. But let's tell the truth. You're hesitating. You're second-guessing. You're shrinking, and you've given it a respectable name. You're feeding fear and calling it caution. You're feeding fear every time you silence your voice, every time you bury your dream, every time you delay that step, that launch, that leap. Because now's not the time. You're feeding it when you replay your failures like a movie, when you imagine rejection before it even happens, when you tell yourself the market's too crowded, the timing's too risky, or the audience won't care. Fear doesn't need a scream, it wins in a whisper, and its favorite disguise is caution. Think about the people who shaped history, not the loud ones, the bold ones. Think about Henry Ford. Do you think he didn't hear the voices? The ones that said, "It's impossible. No one needs a car." Horses are good enough. They called him reckless. They said he was too ambitious, too idealistic, too impatient. But he saw the truth. Caution would have kept the world on horseback. Courage put it on wheels. And Edison 10,000 failed experiments. 10,000 reasons to wait to reconsider, to be realistic. But realism is just fear with good PR. He didn't feed it. He faced it. Because here's what every great mind knows. The world will always offer you a reason to hold back. It's your job to stop accepting it. You want to know why you're stuck? It's not your lack of talent, not your past, not even your resources. It's the way you dress up your hesitation in logic. You've trained yourself to retreat in style, to shrink with sophistication, to justify quitting with well-worded excuses. You're calling it wisdom. But if it keeps you small, if it keeps you still, if it keeps you silent, it's fear. And fear cannot be reasoned with. It can only be overruled. Do not mistake quiet for peace. The absence of risk is not the presence of purpose. You can live a quiet life, a careful life, a comfortable life. But don't lie to yourself and call it success. Don't die in your sleep and call it rest. Don't drift through decades and call it strategy. If it doesn't stretch you, it will shrink you. Now let's get honest about mindset. Mindset isn't a mantra. It's not what you post online. It's not what you say when life is easy. Mindset is what drives your decisions in discomfort. It's the internal code that runs when everything feels uncertain. It's not just what you believe. It's what you practice. And most people practice fear daily in the questions they ask, the thoughts they rehearse, the people they seek approval from, and the dreams they put on hold for just a little longer. But fear is never satisfied with delay. It always demands more. One day becomes 1 month. 1 month becomes a year. And before you know it, the life you were meant to live has been slowly starved to death. So what do? You train. You train your mind like a warrior trains for battle, with repetition, with discomfort, with ruthless self-awareness. You stop feeding fear by starving the habits that sustain it. You stop asking fear for permission to move. You stop waiting for guarantees. You stop rehearsing every possible outcome except the one where you win. And instead you move, even if your voice shakes, even if your knees tremble, even if the only thing louder than your doubt is your heartbeat. Because fear thrives in inaction, but it dies in movement. You are not weak for feeling fear. You are human, but you are foolish if you feed it, shelter it, raise it like a pet, and then wonder why it rules your life. You are not protecting yourself. You are postponing yourself. You are not playing it safe. You are playing small. And this world, this one brief life you've been given, was never meant to be tiptoed through. It was meant to be taken, claimed, lived with fire and conviction. And yes, with risk, with wounds, with failure, but also with growth, with strength, with victory. You have one job now. Tell the truth. Is this caution, or is this fear? Is this wisdom, or is this retreat? Is this maturity? Or is this you hiding behind another excuse? Because no matter how clever the disguise, fear leaves the same result every time. Stillness, smallness, regret. Stop feeding fear. Stop dressing it up. Stop calling it something noble. And for once, call it what it is. Then look it in the face and move anyway. By now, you've planted your mindset, clarified your purpose, and glimpsed your vision. But vision without discipline is a castle built on sand. Discipline is the silent engine behind every monumental life. It's not loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It shows up when your body screams, "Stop." It shows up when your friends ask why you're missing the party. It shows up because each of the next 90 days is a brick in your legacy. Think of Edison grinding in that lab night after night, failure after failure. Or Lincoln drafting speeches in tents during war. They had no guarantee, only commitment. And that's your bar. They didn't stop when it hurt. They leaned into discomfort because they knew that's where transformation lives. So today, decide, will you press snooze or press forward? Will you let fatigue pick your path or purpose drive your steps? These days don't wait on feelings. They await your decision. Make it count. Once discipline is ignited, it demands action. Action shapes belief. It gives weight to your values. It bridges the gap between intention and identity. You don't talk about change, you act on it. You don't hope you'll be consistent, you show up consistently. You don't say, "Someday I'll," you say, "Today I am." Every workout, every call, every cold shower, every page you write, every risk you take, no matter how small, moves the scale. You don't have to climb the mountain in a day. You just have to move uphill, rain or shine. And over 90 days, those uphill steps become your new baseline. Remember Disney starting in his uncle's garage, or Carnegie sweeping floors while plotting steel empires. They didn't declare their vision and wait. They declared it and built it brick by brick. But action must be guided by adaptability. Because no plan survives contact with reality untouched. Plans will break. Priorities will shift. Doors will close. But if you've built a disciplined mind anchored in purpose and sharpened through action, you'll pivot, not break. Think of Darwin's Finch's adaptation is survival's currency. Edison pivoted from telegraphy to motion pictures. Ford pivoted to mass production. They weren't attached to a single method. They were committed to the outcome. Over the next 90 days, conditions will change. Your energy will wane. External chaos will intrude. When that happens, remember you're not chasing conditions. You're chasing results. And flexibility is the tool that keeps you moving forward. To sustain momentum, cultivate gratitude. Let it be your oxygen. Not a fluffy cliché, a firm, fierce truth. Gratitude under pressure shows strength. When you acknowledge every lesson, every challenge, every breath as part of your design, failure loses its sting. In the trenches, gratitude turns wounds into wisdom, setbacks into stepping stones. Edison thanked every failure for revealing one more way not to build a light bulb. Lincoln thanked hardship for forging his empathy. That same posture in the next 90 days can fuel you when everything else feels empty. Every morning, add 3 grateful truths, even if today is as heavy as yesterday. Write them, say them, mean them, and watch how gratitude reshapes your nerve and renews your direction. Now, let's speak of resilience. This journey won't be linear. There will be days of doubt or breakdown. Days when you feel the weight of expectations and maybe your own self-doubt. But resilience isn't returning to where you were. It's landing ahead even after the crash. It's standing while others fold. It's knowing that the wound is part of the award and the scar is as valuable as the gold mine. Mandela didn't survive prison because the bars broke. He survived because he refused to let them shape him. He stepped into freedom already built within. That's resilient power. When exhaustion clutches you, lean on your clarity. When your fire dims, rekindle it with gratitude. When belief fades, let action and purpose reignite it. Because resilience isn't about never falling. It's about never staying down. Now let's practice radical learning, because 90 days isn't just for building, it's for becoming smarter. Every slip, every misstep is a gift, a blueprint of what needs recalibrating. Study Ford's refusal to settle, Edison's obsessive note-taking, Lincoln's self-education, Disney's relentless upgrades. None of them stopped learning even after they conquered. Turn feedback into fuel. Watch, read, listen, analyze. Make small improvements daily. Then watch how 90 days of growth becomes a new version of you. So this is where you stand 90 days. You at the starting line of your own legend. No more excuses. No more alignment checks. No more waiting for external validation. This moment now is yours. Stand up. Live like the built for more person you are. Choose to be broken, or choose to be built. But whatever you decide, don't quit on yourself. These days don't pass quietly. They pass loudly. They are alive, filled with tension, challenge, transformation. And when you emerge on the other side, you will be different. Stronger, wiser, more alive. Not because life changed, but because you did. Now go. Own it. Build yourself. Live your 90 days like there's no reset button, because there isn't. This is your moment. This is your legacy in motion. Let's begin. And then it happens. Right in the middle of your momentum, life throws a curve, a betrayal, a delay, a door that slams shut so hard it shakes the walls of your resolve. This is the part they don't teach in classrooms. This is the moment the dream gets tested, not in fantasy, but in fire. Because anyone can talk discipline when the sun's out. Anyone can believe in vision when the path is clear. But what about when everything feels like it's slipping? What about when your best effort still isn't enough? That's where most give up, because they thought the test was at the beginning when they started the goal. But the real test is what you do when you don't feel like continuing, when the passion fades, when no one's clapping, when you're stuck in the middle, halfway between who you were and who you're becoming. That's when the next 90 days matter more than ever. Because who you choose to be when it's hard is the only part of you that the future respects. It's easy to be the person with hope, but can you be the person with habits? It's easy to say someday, but can you look at your life and say today? You see, greatness isn't born in inspiration. It's born in interruption. When life interrupts your plans, that's when it asks, did you mean it, or were you just excited? Discipline answers that question, and discipline is not something you wait to feel. It's something you become. Because discipline is more than repetition. It's remembrance. You do the hard thing not because it's convenient, but because you remember who you're fighting to become. And here's the truth most never accept. Success is a consequence, not a surprise. It doesn't arrive. It is assembled, brick by brick, hour by hour, choice by painful, deliberate, uncompromising choice. And the difference between the person who gets what they want and the one who just watches from the sidelines is that the winner kept going after it stopped being easy. If the next 90 days are going to build you, they can't just stretch your schedule. They have to stretch your identity. Because the version of you that started this, that version is not enough to finish it. You're going to have to become someone else, someone sharper, more focused, more ruthless about what matters and what doesn't. That means cutting the noise. That means saying no to distractions that feel comfortable but cost your calling. You were not built to stay soft in the face of resistance. And here's where adaptability steps in, not as a weakness, but as a weapon. See, you don't bend because you're weak. You bend so you don't break. You pivot, not because your goal changes, but because your strategy must evolve. The greats. They don't cling to plans. They cling to purpose, and they adjust everything else around it. You will be tempted to go back to what's familiar. You will be tempted to shrink, to pause, to justify. But you didn't come this far to make peace with the past. You came this far to bury it, and you can't bury the old you until you stop feeding it. The excuses, the delays, the justification of mediocrity disguised as logic. Kill them, because nothing changes until you make discipline a non-negotiable, not a weekend hobby, not a when I feel motivated ritual, a requirement. You either train your mind or you're trained by your impulses. There is no in-between. The mind, like a muscle, adapts to what you repeat. Repeat fear, you inherit hesitation. Repeat doubt, you inherit paralysis. But repeat power, and you inherit belief. Repeat courage, and boldness becomes your baseline. It won't happen overnight, but neither does erosion. And you've let enough days pass by watching your identity erode under comfort. No more. You're not here to get by. You're here to get built. So stop negotiating with the old you. That version is expired, and every time you delay your evolution, you breathe life back into something that was meant to die. This isn't just about 90 days of action. This is about 90 days of confrontation. Look your fear in the face, look your patterns in the eye, and refuse to let them run the show one more day. Because the hardest part isn't starting. It's staying when it gets uncomfortable. When your body says rest. When your mind says you've done enough. When the results aren't instant, but the sacrifices are. That's when winners are made. The next 90 days aren't just time on a calendar. They are a mirror. And when it ends, that mirror will reflect one of two things. Either a version of you that finally took the wheel, or a version of you still sitting in the passenger seat, watching life pass by. You know what's harder than disciplined regret. Regret doesn't fade. It repeats, and every time you ignore your potential, it grows louder. So don't look for the easy path, there isn't one. Look for the path that builds you, the one that sharpens your will, the one that makes you immune to excuses. Because while others are breaking under pressure, you'll be breaking through it. Now, let's talk about action. Vision without action is a dream deferred. And here's the brutal truth. 90 days of thinking doesn't shift outcomes. 90 days of acting does. This is the time for surgery, not speculation. It's not about tuning the engine, it's about getting in it and driving every single day. Edison didn't illuminate the world by pondering in darkness. He lit bulb after bulb, despite thousands of failures. Carnegie didn't revolutionize steel by planning on paper. He built bridges and skyscrapers in steel and sweat. Action was their bridge from possibility to transformation. And here's your bridge consistency. Not long hours alone, but steady commitment. A habit built today becomes a standard tomorrow. Over 90 days, you won't just chase change, you'll become it. Then comes adaptability, the skill that breaks barriers when plans break down. Because 90 days will not go exactly as you imagine. Storms will come, people will disappoint, plans will derail. And if you cling to rigidity, you'll shatter. But if you stay flexible, adopting, adjusting, shaping your response, then every setback becomes setup. Darwin taught that the fittest don't survive, they adapt. And in 90 days, flexibility isn't a luxury. It's the path to breakthroughs. You're not chasing perfection. You're chasing progress through shifting ground. And when your foot slips, you adjust, recalibrate, reset, and move again. That's what builds momentum. Gratitude. A word few warriors champion in their grind. Yet gratitude is the jet fuel of resilience. It turns struggle into stepping stones. It makes sacrifice feel significant. It reshapes hardship into wisdom. In 90 days of disciplined grind, you'll need gratitude for the pain that refines you, for the nights that teach you strength. For the people who doubt you, it sharpens your clarity. Gratitude doesn't weaken ambition. It enlarges your hunger because you realize every moment, painful or pleasant, chisels your destiny. And then there's growth through learning. Not cheerleading learning, but brutal, error-driven, corrective learning. You stumble. You bleed. You fix what broke. You rebuild stronger. As Hill taught, every failure carries its lesson. Your job: learn quickly, then pivot forward. Read, reflect, refine, repeat. 90 days of active learning means you don't repeat your failures. You redesign your strategy, honoring pain with progress. That's how ordinary effort becomes legacy creation. Now feel the weight of this moment. 90 days is both laboratory and crucible. You're testing yourself and forging yourself under pressure. You're being broken down so you can be built into your next version. When whispers of quit reach your ear, remember, whispers are always afraid of noise. Let your discipline roar. Let your habits echo so loud that doubt can't find a foothold. Pain is not your enemy, it's your instructor. And 90 days of consistent study makes you the master your situation never saw coming. This is not a sprint. It's not an experiment. It's your restart. It's a transformation that begins with a single decision: I will build for 90 days. I will not break. I will not bail. I will become. Let that echo in your bones. Let that shape your days. Let that guide your decisions. Because this is where you decide if these next 90 days will own you or if you will own them. You're halfway through 90 days now, or you will be if you stay intentional. Notice how everything is louder. Opposition gets sharper. Loneliness sharpens its claws. Every excuse becomes louder than your promise. Every fear fights harder. That's how you know it's working. If it were easy, you wouldn't be growing. Every great life unfolded not in comfort, but in chaos. Not in predictability, but in pivot. Your commitment is being tested. Not with big moments, but with small, uncelebrated ones. The fifth cold shower. The unposted post. The word no when the world begs yes. This is where clarity meets discipline. This is where your vision meets resistance. Where the who you are becomes the who you prove you are. Because 90 days doesn't just change outcomes, it changes identity. So what is fueling you now? Fear of failure or fear of regret? Remember Edison, thousands of failures, but he feared not trying more than he feared failing. Remember Carnegie, impoverished youth, but he refused to trade his purpose for comfort. They didn't run from the pain. They leaned into it. They asked, "What can this make me?" Every failure becomes feedback. Every crisis an opportunity. That's where adaptability comes in. Adaptability isn't just pivoting when circumstances demand it. It's evolving while staying anchored. You don't abandon your vision. You hone it. You calibrate your methods. And out of chaos, you form new paths. Let every shift sharpen you, not stall you. Watch a river, it flows around boulders, not by stopping, but by finding the way forward. You are that river. Then comes gratitude. When fatigue begs for quit, answer with thanks, not for outcome, for opportunity. Thank the days that test you. Thank the nights that don't comfort you. Thank the voices that push you harder than a cheering crowd ever could. Because gratitude turns tension into tension, released through purpose. It aligns your heart with your action. And resilience, that indestructible muscle. Every step forward after a fall, resilience. Every decision made in doubt, resilience. Every rebirth in darkness, resilience. That's what legends are built from. But legend isn't stumbled upon. It is constructed. Day by day, decision by decision, moment by moment. And now, as your 90 days near the end, front row seat to transformation. What will you do now? Will you settle? Go small. Fade back into the crowd, or will you stand with the few who don't just survive the fire, they become it? The world doesn't need more comfort stories. It needs warriors buried in purpose. So finish this period well. Finish it disciplined. Finish it focused. Finish it fierce. Because 90 days is just the entrance. But what follows will be the chapters written from this moment onward. This is your turning point, and always remember every test you walk through. Don't just survive it. Let it construct you. Let it elevate your standard. Elevate your belief. Elevate your identity. When you walk out of this, don't just be different. Be unrecognizable in the best possible way. Because that's how nations, companies, families, movements are built. That's how you were built. Now, step fully into it. And now, here you stand. 90 days of choice, of endurance, of relentless movement. Look back, not to linger, but to see what's been forged in this furnace. A mind sharper, a purpose clearer, a discipline deeper, a resilience that no longer kneels to doubt. This moment, that quiet exhale between chaos and creation, is where everything shifts, where the question isn't what you've lost, but what you've become. Because transformation isn't a reward for comfort. It's the consequence of consistent, intentional disruption, of choosing discomfort as a catalyst, of embracing uncertainty like it's a signpost, not a barricade. You've done the work. You've faced the fatigue, the fear, the fight. And here's the truth, those things don't disappear. They get reframed, they get owned. Your fatigue isn't weakness anymore, it's proof of effort. Your fear doesn't paralyze, it energizes you. Your trials aren't setbacks, they're your story unfolding. You see, transformation isn't a jackpot at the end. It's not the result of explosion. It's the byproduct of evolution. A series of small, soldierly steps taken every day toward a vision worth sacrificing comfort for. And what now? What comes after 90 days? Is your battle over? No, it's just begun. But now you're no longer the person you were when you started. You're someone else, someone battle-worn, someone sharpened, someone who knows how to win. So you go again. Not because this was easy, because it wasn't, but because you are. You're someone who did, someone who became, someone who converted effort into identity. And that identity, warrior, architect, creator, it doesn't vanish tomorrow. It anchors you. It roots your next 90, your next year, the rest of your life. Because consistency compounds. Momentum perpetuates. Desire decays without conviction. So you keep building, not hoping, acting, not imagining, moving, not settling. Because discipline isn't a 90-day sprint, it's a lifetime marathon. Its daily chooses, stepped in purpose, stepped in power. Now take a moment. Feel your chest expand, your breath deepen, your mind quiet yet alive. Remember where you were, and consider where you're going. That clarity, that courage, that commitment, they're yours now. Trophies of transformation. Proof of what happens when someone decides the next 90 days will build me, not break me, because I am the one who decides. So rise, champion. We walk into tomorrow not as participants, but as designers of destiny. The next 90 days, the next 90 hours, the next 90 breaths, they respond to who you are now, not who you used to be. You were broken in places, but from those fractures something stronger has emerged. A mind that says yes to discipline, a heart that says yes to purpose, a soul that says yes to transformation. You were built for this, and so now you own this. The next 90 days will build you if you let them. And now, let them.